We've got Rory Strunk here, executive producer of DEFOE's Way. Thanks for taking the
Oh,
time.
thanks.
I want to ask you, we're not going to try to spoil anything for folks who haven't seen the film, which is premiering in the Maine Outdoor Film Festival September 16th at Discovery Park at LL Bean in Freeport. But how do you describe this film to people who you've just met for the first time?
You know, to sum it up is somewhat difficult because there's so much dimension to it, but it's almost like a coming of age film with an outdoor theme. It's anchored by this incredibly spirited, legendary guide teacher and how he kind of transformed young lives, through outdoor adventure on the Allagash. And, that theme never gets old, and it's kind of like the launch pad for your life. And Gardner DEFOE, the main character of the film, is that legendary guide and teacher, and someone that I grew up as in our family, was a very close friend of my dad's, and was kind of
Cool.
really part of the inner circle of our kind of friends and family from the Sugarloaf area.
Oh, awesome. So that's a part of his life that we don't necessarily see in the film, but I knew that from just living in Maine, that he was also an influence in the Sugarloaf area.
Yeah.
What does he do up there in Carabassa Valley? What's his
Well,
calling there?
Gardner moved up there, I think back in the 60s, but he grew up
Nice.
in Dixfield. And then, went off to Dartmouth College, and then went on to get his master's degree at UVM, and thought he was going to go into the financial services, and then got into education, and then it just drew him back to Maine. And he was for a long time, a camp counselor at Camp Kewanee, the boys' camp on
Yep.
Webb Lake, which is right down the road from where he grew up. So I got to go to some of his camps. I never got the experience of the Allagash camp, but it was kind of legendary in our circles of that camp. 5 to 6 weeks. You go, 10, 11, 13 years old. You're not getting the care packages, and you're not texting your parents for supplies.
Yeah, I mean, you got to come back fairly well changed.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and he's been doing this whether it's Allagash or camping or just running as a counselor at summer camps for years, right? I mean,
Well, he ran camps for 5 decades. So started in the late 50s and all the way up. And, he's now, 83 years old. One of the things that struck me about Gardner is I wanted to tell Gardner's story while he was alive, and while he still had this, piss and vinegar, which he does have a lot of it, and he
clearly
still,
from the film.
yeah, he still is a get up and go, and the idea was to kind of bring back, some of the former campers from the different decades, male and female, invite some of the siblings of their children that may have never had the experience, bring them along, and put everybody in the canoes and float the Allagash one more time with a combination of the people that he nurtured and put on course of life and to their course of life to help them along, and then nurture the next generation. And that's kind of what the thought was in terms of going in and creating kind of the theme around the film.
Well, it was certainly very well executed, and as you said, those themes are hugely important, and I might argue even more so today, just because it's not like the gut reflex of kids to be outside anymore, or a large population of them. I totally speaking in
No,
generalities here,
I think
but
it's right. It isn't the gut reflex. I mean, there's just the diversions at all levels. I mean, I think camps in Maine are challenged just by the fact that there are just so many things for kids to do these days, that the 5 and 6-week camps are largely going away because they can't get that time, because they have music camps and soccer camps and all these other things, all good things, but it's fragmented people's ability to have time, and time in the outdoors is such a special thing, particularly with your friends and your family.
it's crazy to like I didn't I don't know, for whatever reason, we didn't do camp when I was growing up. I mean, it's mostly a financial thing for my family. But like moving to Portland, I met so many people who had camp friends, and a lot of these people were like such talented individuals, and you know, like in a lot that they tried to do. I'm curious, when you got to spend time with them and you got to see them with these younger generations, you know, the children of his campers. What devices did he have to deal with the kids on their devices? Did you see him any of that?
It's Gardner is a very attentive person, you know, and we didn't, you know, on the Allagash, there's no Wi-Fi, you know, devices, and we luckily, we'll come out why we brought one device, which was a satellite transponder, which was lucky we brought that, but we did not have any electronics other than our camera stuff. And but Gardner's ability to kind of sit, listen, you'll see it. I mean, he engages whether you're 12 years old, you're 32 years old, or you're 72 years old. He talks, listens, and his rapport is the same no matter what generation you're in. And I think that's part of the art of his teaching.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So you mentioned bringing, the only electronics for the camera gear. I want to ask you, what challenges were there being in the wilderness? What were you guys? It was like a 5-day. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. 5 days on the river. Yeah.
How'd you charge your batteries and stuff?
So we you get pretty you're pretty efficient in your use. We brought along various devices to give us solar.
Nice.
We built up a lot of battery charges and carried extra batteries. And luckily it all worked out. It was well planned out, but there are a lot of, particularly in the outdoor film festival category, a lot of these are shot in remote areas. So there comes challenges to keep the equipment dry, particularly on a river. If anything goes wrong, you're not calling up anybody and getting extra supplies because you're pretty much out of touch. So you kind of have to run with it. And so we actually, seem to have a pretty good plan, and it worked out well.
Nice. Yeah. Just as somebody who makes films, just on the solar charging, how did that work? Is that like every time you got to camp, you just like laid everything out? Or?
Actually, the best time to do it was when we were canoeing.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So you get these little solar things, and if you're on nice flat water, you're running for quite some time. Plug it in, fold it out.
Nice. All right.
And so it worked out well. So a large part of the filming we did was when we were pulling into camp or in camp or exiting camp, and then little spots along the journey. So paddling time. And I'd say the biggest challenge was the actual paddling. Gardner's team was very good at paddling, and we were a little challenged. I think they took us under the umbrella, and even though I'm a Mainer and I grew up kind of paddling a little bit, I'm not nearly as proficient as the crew was, and we learned really quickly the difference between good paddling and bad.
Did you have to dry out all of your gear ever from capsize or?
No, fortunately not.
Good.
Fortunately
Okay.
not. So.
Cool. Is there anything that I should have asked you about in terms of who you might like to thank or?
I think I think one part of it, we've certainly got to thank the folks that run the Allagash and the Maine Film Institute. The Maine Film Commission. The Allagash, I think one of the things that hopefully is the takeaway for people is that. You got a wonderful story about an amazing teacher, but the inspiration of this place called the Allagash and the waterway and its system and the way it's set up is just a remarkable place for anyone to say, hey, while you've got your youth or you're still in good shape and you want to take that adventure and take your family, it's a must. People would travel around the world to find this beauty. It's stunning and it's amazing, and it's 6 hours up the road here to get out on the river, or depending on where you go, it might be 4. But it is a must see location and must experience place.
Yeah, I haven't been so fortunate yet. But is there a group that helps preserve or keeps? Was I mistaken in trying to understand that you guys were working in conjunction with another group? Or?
Yeah. So there's the Allagash Wilderness Foundation, and we've been working with them on a fundraiser to raise funds out of this film to put money aside for youth, and families from kind of rural communities to afford to be able to go on a trip. And
nice.
So we've started to build a nice little, gather, donations on that, and it's building. And we're, the intent was, maybe Gardner's legacy can live on, with a result to, because he was always really good, because he got a lot of his clientele from places like Philly and Connecticut, and wealthy families that could afford to send their kids on these trips. But on the same token, he would also take kids from rural Maine who couldn't afford that. And so we just thought that would be a nice thing to do. So the Allagash Wilderness Foundation is a great organization that's set up to keep the spirit of that river alive, and the access, and work with the state and the wilderness up there.
Sweet. Is Gardner pretty involved with those guys too?
Gardner, yeah, I mean Gardner. I think he's kind of one of their obviously legacies of someone who brought a lot of people to the river, influenced that. I don't think he's not involved on a day-to-day with the foundation, but he is still paddling and up on the river at least a couple times a year. And at 83 years old, I hope I'm able to do that.
Yeah, you better believe it. Will you be able to make the screening on the 16th? Will Gardner be able to be there?
I'm going to find out. So hopefully he'll make it. I'm sure some of the campers will make it. Some of them live right there outside of Freeport. Hopefully, Scott will be there, I think.
Yeah.
So a few of our crew, including Scott Ballantyne, who was on our crew from Ella Bean, who is an amazing person to have on the team. I think we'll have a good contingent.
Cool. Well, so we're looking forward to Saturday, September 16th to screen it. Maybe it's its Freeport premiere. I don't know. Anyway, it's definitely the main outdoor film festival premiere of DEFOE's Way.
Yeah.
So we're really excited. Rory, thank you so much.
We're excited to be a part of the film festival. It's exciting that you put a lot of work into creating this, and I think it's great to be a part of it.
Well, we couldn't be more proud, and that's where I think Gardner really encapsulates a lot of what we're trying to do with our film festival. Which is just to show the outdoors as a wonderful place to spend time, and to make sure the kids understand that, and to use it as an outlet for expression. So thanks again for stopping by.
Absolutely. We'll see you on the 16th.
Yeah, you better believe it. Thanks,
All right.
Rory. Strunk.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.